Hey everyone. Well, thank you for joining me for today. We have a great episode lined up for you. It is a conversation that's actually very near and dear, based out in Barrie, Ontario. I had the pleasure of actually meeting Jeff. Hey there, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Okay, so you can hear me okay?
I can hear you, but you're upside down.
Oh, well, that's because I have a plug in my phone, so I was trying to do it. So how does that? Oh, that works. How's that? No, I'm
Sideways
sideways.
now. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's gonna have to be held then, I guess. I'll try not to move around too much, maybe.
All right. Appreciate it. How's your day going so far?
So far so good. We're just getting here, so anything's possible.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. This is a conversation that I've really been hoping to have with you for some time, and I'm really glad that the calendar allowed for it.
Hey, no problem. I'm glad you invited me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, the way I like to do things is I like to turn it over to my guests so that they can actually introduce themselves in the best way that they see fit. So without further ado, Jeff, I want to turn it over to you for you to introduce yourself to the people, and then, we'll jump on in.
Sure, yeah. The best way I see fit though usually involves a lot of there's more theatrics involved. There's a theme song, but we'll do the best we
Oh,
can with
right.
the settings we got. So yeah, my name's Jeff. I'm a co-owner of Sober Sips here in Barrie, Ontario. My wife Shannon and I have had this business for roughly just shy of 2 years, maybe now. Sometimes 1 year melds into the next. I'll start it with a weight loss journey for me. Wanted to be healthful, wanted to be mindful, wanted to be more mentally alert and aware, and be there for family and friends. So this opportunity came up. It presented itself, and yeah, you never know if you don't try. So, here we are.
Yeah, for sure. And I still remember the first time I came across you and your business. I believe it was actually at the Winter Festival down in Guildford there, and you had something set up there, and I just came over. I was so intrigued because I was so used to stands having really it's leading with alcohol, right? And you roped
Yeah,
me in by showing me, oh wow, there's someone who's actually daring to have a stand out here that's really non-alcoholic versions of these things that we've grown up on. So
yeah,
I made a beeline over to you. I remember chatting with you for like 10, 15 minutes, and I just knew
yeah,
from the start that, that was going to be a very important part of my journey. Being a Guyanese heritage, alcohol is something that's incredibly deeply entrenched within our culture. If we're
right.
celebrating, we probably have a drink. If we're mourning, we probably have a drink. If it's a good day, probably have a drink. If it's a bad day, probably have a drink.
Yeah,
So, coming across a space that actually allows us to have a different option, an opportunity for a different type of conversation. That meant so much to me. And I felt like even though, you guys are doing this because you feel called to it, I felt like this was in some way like almost an accomplishment for the entire community. The fact that now we're leading with, hey, let's have non-alcoholic versions of these
yeah.
things. So thank you guys for showing up in the space and taking up space. I really appreciate you guys so much for that.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for, well, that day. I remember that day also because think I was solo that day. So we started this in our garage, right? Because we were on the same thing. Like it's not just I don't think in Guyanese culture, it might be a little more, it might be prevalent there, but in my background, I'm like my background's Italian, wine, right? Like I think no matter where you go these days, it's kind of ingrained in society. Had a bad day, unwind with a glass of wine. Celebrating, let's crack a beer,
Yeah.
right? Leafs are finally made it to the second round of the playoffs. Pop the champagne, right? It's
Yeah.
everywhere. It's everywhere that you look, and it's everywhere that you go. And that stigma around that's a need. We need to have this in our lives in order to celebrate. Society, we've kind of gone that way on the whole, right?
Mhm.
And so when we started doing this and we started meeting more people, like we started doing this at markets, like because there was nothing like this,
Right.
except for online. And of course, like you can find anything and everything online, but we want it to be more accessible. We want it to be there for the people. Like this whole thing started out of we found the need for ourselves. We struggled for ourselves to fill that void. How
Right.
can we help other people struggling to fill that void and make it easier?
Mhm.
Right? There was nothing like us. And whenever we went to a market, whenever we applied for a market back then, they're like, "Oh, we got to have you because there's nothing like you." And we
Yeah.
still get calls from multiple places going, "Are you coming back? Are you coming back? Are you coming back?" And we just can't because we're doing the store now. We're bricks and mortar. We want it to be even more accessible. So yeah, I guess to just echo your sentiment there, that we wanted to help sort of move that culture or help that culture shift, right? Not
Mhm.
just in Guyanese or Italian or whatever, but in Canada and North America. And by no stretch of the imagination, don't get me wrong, do I think we're making a difference down in Baltimore, Maryland, up here in small little Barrie, Ontario, but we want to be better. Like we want to be able to do better
Yeah.
and give those people that opportunity to help themselves do better also. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think you're really meeting that need. I remember when I was in my corporate job, corporate settings, you have your Christmas parties, all that kind of stuff. And usually that's where it's like, all right, this is where you kind of earn some of your bonus and like how much you drink, right?
Yeah.
And, I remember still going to my first one where I had chosen, now I'm just over 2 years alcohol free. And I remember going to my first one and I'm like, oh man, I hope they have something for me. I'm probably going to get laughed out of the room. And, to my surprise, as I've been going to more of those restaurants for those settings, they actually had entire menus dedicated to non-alcoholic versions. And I was like, wow, like, we've really come so far. Now, by no stretch of the imagination was me and going for the non-alcoholic version was at the majority. I think I was literally the only one there. And the
Mm.
bartender asked me a few times because I think they thought they heard me wrong when I was asking for, what non-alcoholic versions do you guys have? So, it's really been this huge shift. And I've seen even online, there's been a lot of different studies and articles that come out that are really talking about these newer generations and them opting to actually forego alcohol. I think I saw something to the effect of about 85% of those within one study said we don't drink. We'd actually prefer to go to these mocktail bars or have, these mushroom drinks or something like that versus alcohol being that thing that we sit around. So, for you, have you also seen that shift happening, be that with foot traffic or, just in the conversations that you have generally with people on a day-to-day basis?
Oh yeah, 100%. So when you look at, and somebody out there that's watching this at some point can check all the numbers for us, but my understanding is that the non-alcoholic sales in terms of growth, it's double that to the alcoholic sales. I think the last time I checked trends, alcoholic sales were actually going down. So we're seeing that shift a lot, especially in the young people. So we always tell the story whenever anyone new comes in. Like I have a house full of young adults. My house, like the youngest in my house is 18. We have four children actually, 18, 19, 19, and 21. Um, the kids that are of drinking age do not consume alcohol. They don't want to. They have no desire.
Wow.
There's nothing there. I'm 45-ish, so when I was their age, it was the normal thing to do,
Yeah.
right? You get your older brother to buy you a case of beer. You go sit out in a field and you give yourself alcohol poisoning, and your parents don't know, and that was the cool thing, right?
Right.
But not anymore. Like not anymore. And I think this generation, just from chatting with young people from markets and then come into the store, I think the younger generation is so much more in tune with mental health, right? They've seen their parents, like they've seen what their parents have gone through and struggled, and they see their grandparents, right? Because like my parents now are paying that price for the lifestyle they
Right.
led when they were that age, right? Like when my parents were growing up, in the 60s, 50s, however old they are, and it was smoking and drinking and da da da. Like look at Mad Men, right?
Yeah.
The show, right?
Yeah.
It was everywhere, and we see like these kids see that, and I think every generation, I think the kind of one of the goals for every generation is be better, do better, right? What do we learn? Like if we learn from our mistakes, right? Mistakes
Yeah.
are okay to make as long as we learn from them,
Yeah.
we don't repeat them, and we can grow from them, right?
For sure.
So yeah, big shift in the culture, big shift in the younger people, a
Yeah.
hundred percent. Like it's just not there. So the more we make it normal, Shannon and I always say, and we borrowed this phrase from another person in the non-alc world, Fiona from Sensorium. She said to us when we first met her, hopefully one day it's not a second choice
Mhm.
at a bar or a restaurant. It's just a choice,
Right.
right?
That's so
And we're
true. I
starting to
love that.
yeah, we're starting to see that more and more with restaurants and bars. Like we started inside the back of bricks and mortar, back of Mexico restaurant, vegan Mexican place in town, and they keep the non-alcoholic spirits to make proper drinks. So that's coming along. We're now stocking a couple of more bars along Dunlop Street here in Barrie. It's baby steps,
Yeah.
baby steps, but we're getting there. When you shift
Okay.
culture, you don't do it all in one fell swoop. You do it in tiny, sustainable chunks along the way.
100%. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I remember even for me, when we were growing up, we'd walk down that soft drink aisle and there would be the 0.5% alcohol wine coolers with like the little parrot on it. And everyone's trying to figure out how can we really get the cashier to cash us out with this, right? It was almost like the thing. I still remember too, also in high school, I had some friends who they were great students and all that kind of stuff, but it was almost like, hey, one of the ways that we can show that we're growing or we're alphas in the school is we're actually going to come here drunk, right? So they would like go home at lunch, come back, and they're just like wobbly all over the hallway, and you
Yeah.
can't deny that they're actually drunk. So it was almost this like unspoken thought that it's a rite of passage
Yeah.
almost. And I remember going down in Barrie to one of the LCBOs, and I was just checking to see, in an LCBO, what kind of alcohol-free alternatives exist. And I was so happy to actually not find what I was looking for. And what I was looking for is these non-alcoholic versions of these drinks. And I asked them, hey, like, do you guys not have any, or what's the story here? And they said, it's not that. We actually sold out. And I'm like, wow. Wow, this is huge. Like I'm so happy walking out of here empty-handed. This is tremendous. So definitely seeing that in the conversations, with family and things like that, I'm that one who will bring the non-alcoholic version to the family party and sort of see what happens. I kind of know ahead of time what's going to happen. They're going to like, circle around it and be like, what's this very odd thing that's sitting on this table? But it does lead to those interesting conversations. And in traveling and visiting family from, say, London, we've had the opportunity to actually go out to bars and hear them, not with the pressure of us, go out and say, hey, what non-alcoholic alternatives do you guys have? And actually order that. So we would sit at a table, which traditionally we would see, the whiskey or whatever in hand. And now it's a 0% non-alcoholic beer. So, shifts all around. And the presence of spaces like you guys and just being out there, being in all the different spaces where people are walking and can have those conversations, so important. So thank you guys for all of that. Um, we're here talking about mental health, of course, and with it being June and Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, before we jump into a little bit more about you and, the business and whatnot, can you sort of share any words of wisdom that you have that you've really understood and accumulated over time around mental health, and maybe what would have really served you as a man to hear earlier in life?
Wow. So that's a great question. So mental health, I think, obviously, like so important. It's becoming more and more socially acceptable to talk about, right? Like back when I was younger, therapy wouldn't have like that's a taboo, right? Oh, we don't like that's what something like the neighbor's wife does when she goes, blah blah blah. But now it's becoming so much more acceptable all over, to have those conversations about, in therapy and having those feelings talks. Um, that is great. Like it's fantastic. Like it's one of those areas of health that we for some reason have just abandoned or stigmatized or put out of reach for a lot of people. I truly believe there's a lot of things that could be helped better overall if we all had a little bit more mental health accessibility, right? So I don't know if I have any woodsy words of wisdom for anybody out there in terms of mental health, but I would definitely the advice I would give is don't shy away from it, right? Like it's not a bad thing to like my background is in a garage. Like I ran service garages for the longest time. And when I first started in the garage, I don't know when I was 19 or 20, if the fellas had a problem, it was just, either go back and, sort out yourselves, or just ignore the other guy. But towards the end of my time there, as I started to transition out of that, we were having more and more talks around how those words made that other person feel, right?
Okay.
And in those masculine, macho-driven sort of environments, the machismo, as we would maybe be see in the past, is starting to shift more towards getting in tune with those feelings, and that would be seen in the past as not not a macho, not a male sort of thing, but it really truly is. Like one of the things we always tell our kids and Shannon and I in our relationship is if something's bugging you, something's not right, if something doesn't feel good, let's talk about it, right? Like to borrow Bell's like let's talk about it hashtag, right? It, the more we leave things in the darkness, right? The more we leave things unchecked, the
Mhm.
bigger and worse that they'll become. As soon as we drag those things into the light and we start talking about it, how that makes me feel, start understanding how that helps and hurts the other person, right? As soon as we start talking about those things, it becomes easier, right? And then the next time it becomes easier, and the next time it becomes easier. So I guess, my friend, the advice I would have, if anyone out there is listening or looking for some woodsy wisdom advice, is don't be afraid to talk about it. You know, we always go by, whenever I'm training staff in my day job or I'm talking to my kids, I always talk about the acronym FEAR, of FEAR, right? False evidence appearing real, right?
Yeah.
And it's all up here. I can't tell that person how that makes me feel because they might be mad at me. I can't qualify that thought of sadness or darkness, or I can't reach out for that help because that other person might view me as less of a man, or not as macho as him, right? Don't listen to those things. Talk about it, right? Talk about it. You'd be surprised at the support. 99% of people out there want to love you and support you. The 1% that doesn't, let them go. Let them do their own thing, right? So talk about it. Don't hide it, is the advice I would give.
I love that. And thank you for being so vulnerable to share that, man. I think that it's such important advice, and, something that sometimes we just need to be reminded of, right? I often found that alcohol was almost used almost as like a bit of an entryway into some of those conversations, with, say, a good friend. It'd be like, all right, well, you look like you had a really crappy day. Let's have a drink and talk about it.
It's
And,
a confidence booster, right? That
yeah,
people will rely on that crutch that they have to, like I always say, like a drunk person's going to give you their true, like all the barriers come down, right? You're going to
yeah,
find out who that true person is after, 6 beers. And they're either going to be one of those really terrible people, right? Or they're going to be the lampshade on the head guy. But it doesn't have to have, like, you don't have to have that.
yeah,
Like, you don't have to have that crutch. You don't have to have that confidence. Like, it's inside of all of us.
yeah,
It might be a little tiny spark of confidence, but talking about that spark becomes a flame,
for sure.
right? And then the flame becomes a fire, and then we don't want fires out of control, but we probably not the best topic, not the best analogy to use right now in Canada, but you know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
starts with a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, getting to see, like, giving our friend an opportunity to actually show up for us, right? Actually getting to see that, because you're so right. And I think that's what a lot of men, one of the hurdles that we actually put in front of ourselves, it's like we almost think like our friend doesn't want us to lean on them. Our friend, and that's one of the ways that we can actually show people in any given relationship that we trust you, right? We're trying to see, can you hold me right now? Can you just listen? Can you give me whatever it happens to be that I need in this moment? And, when we lean into the alcohol, sometimes we might feel like liquid courage or whatever to actually let these things out. But often a side effect that I've seen is that the person doesn't remember having that conversation the next day. And it's like, dang, that's a real big missed opportunity, because it's in there.
Yeah.
We just saw that it's in there. But, if only you could actually confront this thing head on, so you could actually hear the sober thought within everything that's trying to come out of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the word that you used, vulnerable, is it's a key one. It's important for all of our relationships, whether it be in our partner driven relationships, like our spouses, our kid relationships. It's so important to show our kids vulnerability, because like that generation is learning everything from us, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of like men's mental health, that vulnerability between buddies, right, is key, right? Because that buddy that you have that might have, because you don't know like everyone's fighting that unseen battle, right? Like we always use an analogy of pushing against the wind, right? And we don't know. So as untruthful or unvulnerable our buddy might be, the more vulnerable we are with them can help them draw out that conversation as well, right? Because vulnerability and trust is the key to any relationship.
Yeah.
Parent, teacher, kid, friend, spouse, whatever. We gotta trust.
Very true.
Vulnerability comes from that. Yeah. So it's good work.
Definitely. I'm so curious, as a business owner, right? How do people receive you when you share with them, hey, I've got this store, this brand that I built that's around entirely sober friendly alcohol versions of these drinks that we've grown up on. I'm so curious, the different things that people say as they walk through your doors, or comments they leave, or messages they send.
Oh man, Yeah, no, sometimes like I wish I had a GoPro on my head sometimes to record some of the reactions because there's it's everywhere from super duper support, super love, super gratefulness, right? Which is amazing because you start your day with a grateful heart. Nothing you can't go wrong. All the way to vitriol and venom on the other side, right? And
Mhm.
everything in between, right? So I remember um, like we get a lot of scoffers, right? We get a lot of how you what no, right?
Yeah,
I'll tell you a quick story. I don't know if we're on a time limit here, but our one of our first outings was you know the area, so you know Camping Fest, right?
yeah,
Very big festival here. I don't know, ridiculous amounts of people are in Barrie. We have probably one of our very first markets, and we don't know what to expect. So we get a lot of we get a lot of females come in because they're very much in tune with a lot of this stuff. We get a lot of young people like we talked about. So what we would usually get is either a husband kind of just standing outside the tent, right, or a parental like those olders that are kind of not quite there
yeah,
yet, standing outside of the tent. And one of the really keys of this industry is liquid on lips, right? Once you touch it, once you feel it, once you taste it, it's like, oh my goodness.
mm,
So, when we're doing out samples, and you go, hey man, come on in. Like, I know this is not for you. I get it, but come on in. Let's just talk about it. And so try this, and then you'd get oh,
yeah,
that's so good, right? Like, it's such a big difference, right? But yeah, we get them all the time. Like, what's the point? Like, why is it so expensive? There's no alcohol. We'll talk about that. I know that's one of the questions you have about in terms of the
yeah,
process a little bit later on. I don't need that. It's not for me. All the way down to like we're growing a little community here that's very grateful, right? Like we talked about a little bit earlier, and they love the options, right? Because like we said, like one day it's not going to be a second choice; it's going to be a choice. So I can recall. I think we're involved in a Reddit thread somehow. Somebody in our Barrie was posting about us, and I stumbled across it one day on Reddit. I'm like, oh hey, that's me.
yeah,
And it was like what are they thinking? There's no way. How can anyone make a business out of that? They're destined for failure, right? And that was I think 2 years ago. And I'm not saying we're out of the woods yet. We're still a brand new small business, so we still got our hurdles and we still got our problems to overcome. But yeah. So I guess the short version of that, dude, is it's terrible, awful, silly, dumb, ridiculous.
yeah.
What's the point? And love it, grateful, thankful, whatever the case may be. So it's all over the board, man.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that the fact that you are getting them all over the board means that you're actually stirring something within us, right?
Oh yeah,
People are going in some way, shape, or form to express this. What is happening, right? Like they're observing, they're taking note of what's happening, right? So they're probably aware of these shifts. And, some of it comes back to a little bit of what we were saying a bit earlier. It's like almost having an opportunity or a space where you feel you can talk about that, right? Like, oh, shoot, how come these young folks are really going towards this non-alcoholic version? Or
yeah,
whatnot, right? Just for them to have a space, and I think that's what you represent, to so many, right? It's that opportunity. Of course, we can all Google everything, but you're an actual
sure,
person there who wants to inform and empower, right? So I see that
yeah,
as huge. I'm curious, what's your response? Because I get this a lot too when I show up with my non-alcoholic versions or
yep,
I reach for something and I'm trying to share with people. What's your best response to when people ask you that question? Well, what's the point?
yeah. Great question because we have kind of a go-to in the shop here. I always ask people, how much of your Saturday do you want to invest in your Friday night, right? Like, um, especially as we get older and our bodies, deteriorate. Like like I said, 25, and I don't recover like I used to. Um, 4 or 5 beers at the end of the day, three glasses of wine at the end of the day, tomorrow I'm going to feel it. I'm going to feel it pretty hard, right? And I like the ability to get up and feel refreshed. I like the ability to get up and jump to my day. 21-year-old me might have a totally different thought process on that, but
Right.
49-year-old me, doesn't want to have half of his day gone because he had a couple hours of fun on a Friday night. So that's one thing we do. The other thing that we have a lot of conversations around is again just to chime back to the core of this conversation. is mental health, right? At the end of the day, alcohol is a depressant, right? And it makes you feel temporarily great. You know, we joke around here about, hey, you know, our stuff's only good if your jokes are already great and your dance moves are already good, right? But at the end of the day, alcohol is a depressant. We've never ever, I don't want to sell and I don't want to talk about something from a fear standpoint, like the actual fear, trembling, scared standpoint. But, you know, when you boil it all down, the soup and nuts of alcohol is that it is a poison to your body. It is. It's why it does what it does, right? If it didn't do what it does, then it wouldn't be, you know, quote unquote, bad for us. And I know there's going to be, you know, maybe comments out there that says, you know, in moderation and do. And sure, everything in moderation. I get it, fellas, and I get it, folks. But for some people, that's not an option. Moderation isn't an option. Some people with the addictive personalities that are out there, with the mindset of fitting in, it's not an option for some people. So yeah, I guess the shortened version of your question or the answer would be, yeah, like it's just not worth it. Like how much of it's worth it? Like where's that balance for you that says, I want the mental awareness, I want the social awareness, I want to be present for my people, versus I want fuzzy brain and weak knees. Right? Where's that balance? And some people the balance is instant, right? Some people the balance isn't quite there.
Absolutely.
And hey, we always say to everyone, you don't have to be totally sober to enjoy our stuff. We've got something for everybody. And if you want to have the fuzzy brain and the weak knees, have at it, man. If it's not an addictive problem, if it's not a health problem, if it's not a financial or a social problem, then everyone's allowed to make their own choices around their own selves, right? We're here to give you that space, right? We're here to give you that option if you want it. If you don't want it, that's okay. We're here when you're ready, right? But eventually, I believe, majority will shift and be ready, because the mental awareness that you feel when your body detoxifies or flushes out all that stuff and you become more here, right? And then all of a sudden you become more here, right? Then life opens up, right? Heart, brain, spirit, like we're also connected. That one thing that to knock that balance off, it's going to knock the other stuff off, right? So I always tell guys, like, dudes, I drink beer because I like the taste of beer. I'm not drinking beer because I don't like my feelings. I don't want to be around my wife. I love my wife. I love being around her. I love my kids. I love being around my kids. I want to be present in that moment, right? Absolutely. So how present do you want to be to the people that you love in your life, right? Alcohol takes me away from those people. Alcohol robs me of that time with those people, right? And the more time I have with those people in my life that I love and cherish and honor, right, the more present I am for them, the better father, the better friend, the better husband I can be. I'll tell you a quick story about not being present. This is way back in the way back times. I was a single dude, you know, single dad, a couple of small kids at the time. I can't remember how old my children were. I can't remember. I want to say 4 and 5. Doesn't matter. They could be 6 and 9. The story's the same. And we're having a good time in the backyard, having a bonfire, having a party, blah, blah, blah. Dude, I remember none of it. Like none of it. I remember waking up the next morning with a giant scar on the back of my leg, right? I remember the next morning being all like this and my neighbors coming over going, what the heck was that last night? My kids were there, right? My kids were sleeping. Right. How present was I for them if they had an emergency? Like, how present was I if they had a bad dream? How much of an example am I showing them if they woke up and saw, right? And that was a huge, scary eye-opener for me when I went, that's not right. I love these kids. I will die. I will put my head on a plate for these children. But I couldn't be there enough to be there for them. Dude, that was not okay.
Wow, man.
I think we got off topic a little bit there. But
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. This is very much on topic. And, I resonate so much with what you said. I myself am not a father, but I remember having this thought actually late one night. And, I've been this guy who, after my wife goes to bed, I'll stay up and, watch a show or two for myself. It's kind of just like my downtime, wind down kind of
Yeah.
thing. And when I would drink, I'd often reach for whiskey was usually my drink. If it was just like me, if it was out partying, whatever, it's like tequila and whiskey. But, whiskey was kind of my thing. And, I'm sitting there, I'm, having my drink and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if the house, for whatever reason, caught on fire right now, if I had to warn my wife about something, if there was some emergency for a family member right now and we had to hop in a car and go pick them up from the side of the road somewhere, would I be an asset or a liability? And I'm like, holy shit, okay, you know what? Like, this is not okay. Like, what am I doing this for? It's so I can feel a little detached right now for this like 30 minutes that I'm sitting by myself. Then I'm going to go sleep. And then I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm just going to really seek the end of the day to have this feeling again. Right. So it's like this is not adding up, because ultimately, like a story of mine is, we were at my wife's, her family was having a little get together and whatnot. And for me, I have an incredibly high tolerance, right? Like very, very high. Like I would need like a bottle of whiskey just to myself for me to start to feel it. That's kind of the thing. So, we're there. All the guys are kind of in their area, sitting, having their drinks, all that kind of stuff. And, she was ready to go. And we were just in a conversation, me and the guys. And, we're just really animated at that point. And, everyone had some drinks and stuff. So, I started to tell them, like, okay, hey, hang on, like, we're just finishing this conversation, whatnot, whatever, right? And, as later on, after we debriefed from the event, it was kind of like, hey, the way you were kind of speaking to me was not all that great, right? I felt this way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, shoot. In the moment, I thought I was just trying to honor the fact that I'm in this conversation right now, and I don't want to step away from these guys and be rude. Let me just finish this convo. And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm trying to show her like I'm invested with her people and stuff like that. But it was flying over my head, the fact that I might not be aware of all of these different behaviors that are now sort of unlocked, and I'm not necessarily aware of. So it's like, well, if all that's going to happen here is I'm going to be laden with some form of regret, then this thing is not really worth it, because now all of a sudden she feels she can't trust me to conduct myself well in this environment. Now there's going to be, different things that spur from that, right? So those were some of the wake-up calls for me. And, just trying to think about how many close calls I personally had when I was a single guy and around alcohol and those risks that we all take, even though we definitely know we shouldn't. There were so many times when it was like a near miss. It was like happened to fall asleep while driving, and just by chance, half a second before you fly off that cliff. Right. So it's been so tremendous. And, that's why I'm so grateful that there's these options, because like it's like I'm craving the taste of these things sometimes. I want that bubbly, kind of thing. I don't necessarily need the detach and dissociate from your body thing, but sometimes, I do miss the flavor. Like, just like as a vegan, sometimes I miss the flavor of meat. It's kind of just the way it goes, right? We're human, right? So, So,
no, for sure. Like,
I'm sure.
like, let's be quite frank. Like this, like, beer's not a bad flavor. Whiskey and Coke is not a bad flavor, right? Like they're delicious for a reason. Because they want you to keep coming back. So no, I get it, man. The flavor's there.
For sure.
Like it's all about the moment.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Do you have the ability to sort of take us on a small walk through the store, just to show, for those who have never maybe even stepped into a store like yours, just how many options actually exist out there of alcohol-free versions of things that we regularly reach for? Is that an option for us today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sitting here right now. We'll spin the camera around, I think. This is my first live, so we'll see what we can do. So here we go. So this is our new space. We'll take you outside, and then we'll come back in. We're actually open right now, so
awesome.
This is us downtown Barrie, right? So Sober Sips.
Are you open every day, Jeff?
Just Mondays we're closed.
Just Mondays, okay.
So we've got a new program here where we've got a few deals with some restaurants in the area, so you come down and you can eat. So we'll take you just quickly through here. This is our spirit section. So believe it or not, the spirit industry, the spirit side of this industry is coming along really a lot. So we start we start a lot of people off with an RTD or ready to drink, right? And then they grow from there, and then we get into the mixing portion of stuff, right? So We actually do mixology nights where we bring a non-alcoholic bartender in.
Oh, mate.
We kind of all gather around the table, kind of family style here, and we all sort of learn how to make the mixed drinks. But yeah, so we have a lot of wine. This is all red wine here, and then rosé wines, and then the white wine here. We're just going to go around the long way here so we don't interrupt these customers that are looking at our RTU wall, just in case they don't want to be on a live.
That's fine. You only wanted it in 4 states.
Oh, you only wanted in 4 states. So if you're watching in one of the other 40 other ones, then he's fine. So beer is kind of where my passion came from at the start. When this was for me, like I said earlier, this was a weight loss journey, and I enjoy the taste of beer, and I started finding all of these great beer options. I used to love going to the liquor store with my 6-pack and try this and try this, right? Yeah. So we wanted to be that option for people here as well. So as you can see, there's a lot of beer options, and we always find more. So we've got, I think, a couple new ones even coming next week. And then, of course, you've got the RTDs over here, all the ready-to-drink stuff, right? So, right down to you said you were a whiskey guy, so they're whiskey sour, right. Smoky margaritas, like everything's here, right? You got it all. We can touch a little bit later, if you'd like, and talk about sort of this kind of category here, which is adaptogenic, right? So a lot of these drinks are infused with different vitamins or minerals, ashwagandhas, L-theanines, and so on and so forth. But yeah, this is it. That's my lovely wife, Shannon, right there.
Hey, Shannon.
You've met her before. Yep. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of the store. We just wanted to give the space for this community to have a spot to come in, feel comfortable, feel safe, and just enjoy and relax.
Well, it looks
right.
like a beautiful and fresh environment, man. I can't wait until the next time I get to actually walk through and come see the expanded lineup. Because I remember even when I first came through, I was like, my mind was blown. I'm like to me, I'm like, are these actually all non-alcoholic versions? Because I never thought there was this array of selection out there for us to pick from.
Oh yeah, there's tons more. Like we can't have it all. We try to have everything. Like we talk to a lot of different places, and you see this. We have a curated selection, or sommelier chosen. Like that's great and lovely and fantastic, and that way you can speak to every single product that's in your portfolio, and that's fantastic. One of the mindsets though we came to see it as though is like, think of it like a pizza place. I don't like anchovies on my pizza, right? But Domino's has anchovies because somebody likes it. So it's hard for us to say, I'm not going to bring this one in because I don't like it. One of the hardest portions of this job, besides hearing some of the gut-wrenching stories, because when you are in a sober, like we call ourselves sobriety proprietors. When you're a sobriety proprietor, people will tell you their story, right? One thing we learned really early on was you don't, like when someone says, "Oh, I don't drink," you don't go, "Oh, why?" Right? Because sometimes there's some really things in the background there. So I don't remember where I'm going with this. Sometimes words just start and I lose my focus. But back to the selection and the choice, right? So we got to give something for everybody. So they ask us, what do you recommend? What do you want? Dude, I can't answer that. Yeah. I can tell you what I enjoy. I can tell you what the feedback is. I can tell you what sells. But at the end of the day, this thing I sell you, I'll be the first guy to tell you, you might not like. And I got to be honest with you and upfront about that. So that's why we have a little bit of everything. There's one brand that we have. I'm not going to say the brand. We don't like it. I can't stand it. Not my favorite. I personally will not drink it. So we brought it in. We went, no, not for us. We stopped selling it. Immediately when it stopped selling, email after email. When's it coming back? That's my favorite. That's my favorite. So it's back. It's back. Okay. So that's why we have so much selection. That's why it's hard for us to decide. Like, just the answer is yes. Let's give it in. Let the people decide. We're here for you. Like, we're here for you. Honestly, at the end of the day, like we're here for you guys. We're here for the public.
Absolutely.
So you decide what's on our show.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you've seen it so far, as much as this is all subjective taste and whatnot, what have you seen, like, what does the data show you around sales and what people seem to really be drawn to? Like, what would you say are your top 2 or 3 sellers? And maybe, that could be across different categories. It doesn't have to just be beer, like it could be even wine or whiskey, say, because, I think people just want to sort of know, what is happening. And I think this can almost give them a bit of that permission, if you will, to get curious or a little bit more curious to actually pick one up.
Yeah, we're very... I find it to be very seasonal, right? Like through the winter, we sell a lot of wine, right? Right now in the summer barbecue season, it's all beer and ready to drink stuff, right? So with a bit of a smattering in the middle of the ready to drink stuff. Sorry, not the ready to drink, the spirits. Spirits are a little bit more of the kind of advanced non-alcoholic drinker.
Yeah.
You know, when you're making your mixed drinks with booze or with hooch, right?
Mm.
It's too strong, more mix. Not strong enough, more booze, right? Non-alcoholic's a little bit more involved. We got to talk a little bit about balancing some flavors and some acidities and what's your flavor profile? Sweet, sour, bitter, blah 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 blah. So right now, I guess to answer your question, what's some of the top sellers? Anything local craft, like Flying Monkeys here in town, just came out with a non-alcoholic Sessions IPA, flying off the shelves. We love it. Anything like the craft brewery stuff, like the Ontario brewed craft stuff, that beer sells the best. Like we don't bring in like the Heinekens and the Buds, like the big names of stuff. You want that? Bless your soul, love it. Go to Costco, go to Loblaws, go to the grocery store. It's cheap, it's accessible, it's ready. You want something a little bit different? That's where we come in. So when we get closer to holiday seasons, we see wines really, really pick up, like Thanksgiving, Easter, Christmas, barbecues, blah, 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 wine spikes. Yeah. And then I guess the thing that's really selling a lot for us right now too is when you get a new flavor. So we just found ourselves some beer Caesars and another brand from Nova Scotia called Chill Street, because what we find a lot in this category is flavor fatigue. Okay. There's everyone's got a gin and tonic. All the brands have a margarita, right? All the brands have a mojito, right? So when somebody comes out with like a beer Caesar, a strawberry daiquiri, a vintage mule, a gin soda, that really takes off because people, like it tells me that people in this category, they're looking for options, right? They're looking for variety, right? So we find people, especially nowadays with the sunny weather, like our countertop is just filled with, I want to try this, I want to try this, I want to try this, I want to try this.
Nice. I see we have a question here from Neil. Neil asked, are there any plans for an online store?
100%, Neil. We actually have an online store. That's where we started. This whole venture started from our garage and online. So the website is sobersips.ca. We ship anywhere in Canada. We have a flat rate delivery service for Simcoe County. But at one point, I don't want to say we didn't abandon the online store. It's there. It's present. It's 2025. We have to have an online presence 100%. But there's a couple of brands in this market that, their advertising pockets are deeper. I'm not going to go up against them. At one point, Shannon and I had to kind of decide the business and what direction did we want to go. Did we want to focus online or did we want to focus bricks and mortar? And to us, the local community aspect, that belly to belly, face to face, touch it, feel it, taste it, talk about it aspect really resonated for us. We like to serve local. So we've actually got a bit of not a collective, but we work jointly with a lot of different brands across Canada. So Neil, depending on where you are, I would probably direct you to someone maybe closer to you, right? We have a lot of inquiries from Calgary. There's a great guy out there, Jonathan, runs Drink Sante. If you're in Alberta, check out Drink Sante, great guys. You're in BC, we get a lot of inquiries. For some reason, we get a lot of inquiries from Vancouver. Raquel and the Bevy's Bar in Port Coquitlam, they do a great job out there. We regularly send people down to With Grace Marketplace. That's Dana down in Pickering. Like, we love to see you folks. Don't get me wrong. But if you're in Oshawa, don't drive all the way to Barrie. Drive down to the end of Liverpool Road and go see Dana. You're in Toronto, go see Gail at Zero Cocktail Bar, right in Cabbagetown at Carleton and Parliament. She'll mix you a great drink. So, Neil, the short version is yes, sobersips.ca. The long version is come and see us. Come and find a Sobriety or proprietor near you. It's a much better experience to be in person if you're able.
Awesome. I love that. I love that term you guys use, sobriety or proprietor. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna put on a t-shirt. Hashtag.
Yeah, I'm getting one for sure.
Okay.
I'm curious, Jeff. Could you show me maybe a couple options, right? I'm just trying to think about the Indo-Caribbean Guyanese community right now. What we typically reach for. That usually be your rums. And some of that type of stuff. Can you show us maybe one or two rum options that would really be
absolutely.
from your palate that you feel really resemble the thing that we might be used to, and
Absolutely. This is easy right off the hop for sure. You Caribbean guys out there, like I think spiced rum is a thing, isn't it down there? At least it is on this label. This Ish brand has got to be one of my absolute favorites, 100%. Rum and Coke all day long with this one. Cuca Libre, I think, if I close. Italiano, dark and spicy, absolutely got to be 100%. We actually
Okay.
almost sold out because this was actually the brand we were using for our last mixology night. People loved it, and off they go. I heard you say whiskey earlier, my friend.
Yep.
So this is a Canadian brand, Mad Moose, out of Edmonton, Ontario, or sort of out of Edmonton, Alberta. The young
Okay.
fella Zach makes this, a fantastic smoky finish, good for when you want it nice and straight and smooth, right, in a big heavy bottom whiskey glass. But probably one of my absolute favorites right now. This is why we've got the staff
Oh yeah.
pick,
Yeah.
is the Pathfinder.
Okay.
So the Pathfinder is just an interesting non-alcoholic elixir, which we haven't really talked about much yet, which is another category in here. Not trying to be a whiskey, not trying to be a rum, not trying to be anything. Oops, sorry. Just trying to be its very own thing. So when next time you're in town, stop in. We actually keep almost a full stocked tasting bar.
Okay.
Because as we touched on a little bit earlier today, liquid on lips is kind of the key to the category. So a lot of the spirits will keep open, and you come down and have a taste, right?
Okay. Great
kind of
to know.
what
Yeah,
you're getting
I'll
into.
definitely take you up on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I definitely I've tried a few of the ones out there. I think I've tried the Lears or
Yep,
Liars bourbon.
yep.
I remember tasting that, and that had a nice flavor profile to it. So I'm glad to see that there's more options that are coming out there. So I'll definitely come do that taste test.
Yeah, there's
Um,
tons. There's lots.
yeah. Now, another question that I'm sure will come up, and even I was pleasantly surprised by this. How does the price point of these non-alcoholic versions compare to, say, what people might be used to when they go pick up their, typical thing over at the LCBO, say?
I am glad you asked, sir, because that is one of the main. We talked a little earlier about that response online and kind of what you get back. And one of the things, like we said earlier, was why is it so expensive? There's no alcohol in this. Why blah blah
Yeah.
blah. So as people may or may not be aware out there, there's no job at the brewery for alcohol adding person, right? There's no bucket of alcohol that someone has to take a scoop of and dump it in the thing and then add alcohol, right? Alcohol is a byproduct of the process, right? Alcohol is a product of the fermentation, of the aging, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. Fact check me all you want out there because I'm not a brewmaster. I'm not a winery. I'm just a guy that sells the stuff. So anyway, long story short, there's more work involved. So when you look at a wine, a de-alcoholized wine or a non-alcoholic beer, right, we've taken a product that's finished, right, and then there's one more step. And I say finished in quotes. Finished in terms of it could go to the beer store, it could go to the liquor store, it could go wherever the case may be. Now it's done. Now we have to take the alcohol out. So there's more work involved in non-alcoholic beer and wine, right? And that process isn't cheap. And every brewery or every winery is going to tell you their process is the best. There are lots of different processes, whether it be reverse osmosis, boiling, distillation, steam distillation, like whatever the case may be. So, and that process isn't cheap. And the technology around that process is getting better and better every day, right? Which is why, back when I was young, your options were, O'Doul's and most of them Excel, and it wasn't that great. Which is why fast forward to today, like we just saw in our quick little walk around, there's a ton of options, and they're fantastic, and they're getting better and better because the process to get the alcohol out is becoming better and better, right? But that process isn't cheap, right? So this is why, again, liquid to lips is so important in this category because it is a premium purchase. Like, don't get me wrong, some of the wine we sell is upwards of almost $40. Like when I was a drinker, like I'm not going to spend $40 on a bottle of wine at the liquor store. I'm just not that person, right? So like some of our cans of beer, upwards of over $5 a can of beer. It's a premium product, right? But there's work involved to make it that premium product, right? Now, that being said, some of the stuff, like we have cheaper versions as well, and we want to fit what is accessible, what is attainable for each person. So we have low versions, we have higher versions, right? The spirit section, right, to get some of those flavors right, because those are not all of them, I shouldn't say. Some of them, the Sober Spirits brand is a finished product taken back down, but a lot of the stuff is built from the base up, right? So our RTD category, like a lot of the canned drinks, like the mocktails, is a carbonated water base and built up, right? And to get those flavors right and to get those, it's not an easy process, which is why, again, way back in the way back times, to your point, at the grocery store, what did you have? Wine coolers, right? That's all they had was those half a point or those 0.05 wine coolers. Fast forward to today, we have Tom Collins, we have margaritas, we have whiskey sours, we have mezcalitas, we have a brand called Mox, which is just a number of different interesting complex adult flavors, elderflower, ginger, say, like, so many things. But it's not an easy process, right? Like you don't just dump a bunch of random things into a bucket and all of a sudden, boom, we've got a mojito. No. We've got to have the R&D around that. We have to have the right flavor profile. We have to have the right additives. So it's a premium, right? And that's where it comes from. So it's not as easy as just 1, 2, 3 done.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that being said, like, we have an option for it, and expensive doesn't necessarily in any category mean better. Like, we have a brand on our shelf, $14.99, bottle of white Pinot Gris. It took World Non-Alcoholic Awards, took gold. Like, it's a gold winner, $15. Let's start you there. We don't have to put you in a $40 bottle of wine to get good wine.
Mm-hmm.
Good is subjective to each of us,
sure.
right? What you think is good, and if it's affordable and attainable, then that's great, because we understand it. This is not, to a lot of people, I shouldn't say it with such a broad stroke, but for a lot of people, this isn't a need. Yeah. This is a want.
For sure. We're
in a want category, and when we're fulfilling, especially today's day and age, when food is expensive, housing is expensive, everything's expensive. When 1% of us have 98% of the wealth, the other 99% of us have to be mindful of where we spend our dollars and cents. So 100%. We want to make sure that we have an option that fits your budget. Because one thing we don't want to become is a burden on your budget. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, no, and I think that's so important, right? Because that's usually why we would keep reaching for this, right? Because it's kind of that, really good price point for, the feeling of value at the end. Okay, it helps me to, numb myself out for a little bit or whatever it happens to be, right? We make that sort of exchange in our mind and see, okay, it's worth it. And, something that comes up when I talk about these non-alcoholic alternatives is I kind of liken it to the premium product that we'll see if we were to happen to go to a bar with our friends and be like, no, I want that top shelf tequila, right? You're paying more for it. Technically, it's the same thing, right? But you're going for a more advanced flavor profile, right? I also find that when I'm trying to share about why the price point might be a little bit more on these versions, I share it's kind of like, you go to the grocery store and you're buying organic, right? Technically, these are things that are stripping away all of the crap that's bad for you, right? Like how you referenced, the alcohol is poison, right? So now we have the flavor profile. Chances are we have some ingredients in there that actually do something positive for your body as well, right? It's not just stripping your body. And so we need to make that connection within our mind. Like, okay, well, if it was worth it to us in this setting to pay $300 for this bottle when I was going to celebrate my birthday, well, why wouldn't I invest, say, $30 into a non-alcoholic version of something that maybe I'm used to paying $20 for, right? 100%. So I think it's giving 100%. Visibility to that and seeing people make those choices as well, right? Even have that dialogue around, well, what is my brain actually computing as I'm rationalizing this decision right now?
Yeah, we had at the end of our last mixology night, we usually we'll hang around and we'll have a couple of drinks, right, with the mixologist, and there was a lady that was having a great time, and she brought up to the counter, she wanted to make Negronis at home, right, which is a great drink for anyone out there. Try Negroni if you haven't had one; it's fantastic. But she's got the aperitif, she's got the Campari, she's got the gin, she got it all up, and then she wanted a bottle of it was Livener. We have been talking about adaptogens, right, and some of the benefits of ashwagandha infused drinks and lion's mane infused drinks and so on. But it's not cheap. Again, it's a premium product. So at the end of the day, when you added all of her bottles together, I think her total bill was around 150. I don't remember 100. It was a lot of money. And I looked at her and she looked a little. I'm not sure. I said, look, at the end of the day, it's okay. There's no judgment here. If we put too much on the table, we don't want to blow your budget. I don't want you to be struggling for food tomorrow. She says, you know what? I'm worth it. I'm worth it. I'm worth making the investment in this, right? Because I enjoy this, I like this, and I want this now. I'm worth it to invest in this, so I have that drink to look forward to at the end of the day. My unwind is now this rather than that. Wow. So, and she's not wrong. If I can go out and I can spend I can't remember, like when I was a big drinker, gin was my thing. So everywhere I went was, what a new gin, what a new gin. And I would have no issues when I'd be out on a business trip and I'd go to some new liquor store or SAQ or whatever and find that local bottle and go, you know what? Gosh darn it, I'm worth it. I
Yeah,
can spend the $50 on this. So if I can spend the $50 on that, I can probably find $40 to spend on this.
definitely. Definitely. And you know what? Like that's such a great point. I remember when we were doing our going away party from Innisfil and I came down to you guys and picked up a whole bunch of different non-alcoholic drinks for everybody at our party. And we committed to doing dry events. We were not going to be serving any alcohol. It wasn't a BYOB type of thing. And everyone who was there, you should see the looks on their faces. It's like they almost thought that they were drunk asking me these questions. Like,
Yeah.
really? That alcohol free? And how many of them, it was the mere presence of seeing some of the options out there that was enough for them to say, you know what, we're going to try a dry event next time that we have a birthday party or whatever it is, because wow, we never would have known that wine could taste this good
Mm-hmm.
or the bourbon could taste this good, and we not have those things that of course you spend the next day trying to recover from. So
Mm-hmm.
tremendous. I'm glad more people are seeing it as an investment in themselves and seeing it as worth it, doing more of those real life in real world kind of comparisons for themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
um you know
to connect this back to like mental, like if it's a mental health thing, like we're talking about men's mental health, right? Like if a nice whiskey is part of your mental health, quote unquote, routine, we can find you one of those too that's affordable. Let's figure it out.
Right. 100%. Yeah, no, that's so great, man. I know we're coming in on time here, so I have a couple questions to wrap with you on.
Sure.
The first one here is I want to ask, are you the first person within your lineage who's intentionally trying to pivot away from alcohol? And if so, can you share any sort of words of wisdom, things you've learned along the way for other people who are also trying to step into that journey in their own families? Because this is something that I never really got to hear about. It is more like I had to just walk through and sort of learn as I go. So have you picked up
Sure.
anything, or how did that resonate with you?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So, in terms of intentionally, like non-drinking, yes, I think well, no, my cousin Kim, she doesn't drink, period. So there is some support within the family, but again, because of the age, like I grew up with a lot of alcoholism in my family. Like my grandmother was a diagnosed alcoholic, right?
Okay.
So we are trying to become more mindful for that. And anyway, so to answer your question, own it. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Like we talk about that fear, that false evidence appearing real. Like, oh, like I can't bring my non-alcoholic beer to the barbecue because cousin Jimmy's gonna make fun of me,
Yeah.
right? But that's not your problem.
Mm.
That's his problem, right?
Right.
Like, don't be scared to stand up for what you believe in, what you think is right, especially when it comes to yourself and bettering yourself. Like this whole thing for me was health and wellness, and then of course in tune to that is mental awareness. And if I listened along the way, along my 100-pound weight loss journey, to all the people in and out of my life that told me I couldn't do it, it wasn't worth it, you're not gonna be, it's like just have the like whatever, like have a beer, have a drink, don't listen to them. Like,
Mm.
like be true to yourself, understand and know, like what do you want out of your life?
Right.
It's your life, not cousin Jimmy's life, right? Be that person, stand up, and because you know what, that other person that's watching you might take that away with you as well, right? Because you never know, like you never know who's watching, you never know who's listening. So be true to your words, right? Like be what's the word? What's it? No, it's sorry, authentic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Shannon's beside me listening. Be your true, authentic self, and
Yeah.
don't be afraid to let that light shine, right?
Love it.
Because the 18-year-old that's at that family party that's like, can't wait to get my hands on some beers, right? We'll see there's another path, right? We'll see that how the next morning when maybe everyone gets together after, like if it's a wedding and everyone's together for brunch the next day, and you're there present in the moment, and your cousin Jimmy is there doing one of those,
Right.
right? Little cousin Billy, who do they want to model their future life after? So be authentic, be true to yourself, right? And don't worry about what those other people think. Because again, like we talked about, I tell my kids this all the time. Because this generation, dude, as well as I do, anxiety is like the key word. It's like the word of this generation, whatever it is, Z, Alpha, blah blah blah, whatever the generation is.
Yeah,
I think the one headline above all of them is anxiety, anxiety, anxiety,
agreed.
right?
Yeah,
And a lot of where anxiety comes from, I can't really say where it comes from, but a lot of what I think anxiety feeds is what's that other person going to think, right? Like we can't upset that other person,
Mhm.
right? Our political landscape today, we see it all the time. Like you can't have a disagreement with someone without it being a huge blow up.
True.
Gone are the days when we can say like, okay, I like the blue guys, okay, but I like the red guys. Okay, let's have a dialogue about that. We don't have dialogue anymore. So the
So true.
kids, this generation, this anxiety-riddled generation that's hiding behind screens, right, all the time, don't see us having dialogue.
Mhm.
So be true to yourself and don't worry about it, because not at the end of the day, dude, 99% of people want the best for you.
Yeah.
They are cheering for you. They are rooting for you. Maybe not 99, maybe 95% are rooting for you. The other 2.5% don't care. They don't give a shit what you do.
Sure.
And that's okay. Because you know what? At the end of the day, when I see a guy walking down the street having his best life, I don't give a shit what he does either, because he's living his best life. And those other people that are out to sabotage you and ruin you, at the end of the day, that's going to catch up with them.
Yeah.
So don't worry about them. Karma, God, whatever you believe in, whatever you think, that will come around. So just be yourself, man. Be authentic. Be true. Find your thing, hold on to it, and run after it, right? You will be surprised. You will be amazed what the brain will do for you. You will be amazed as your body heals and quote unquote detoxifies and you grow, what your body is actually able to do, what your brain is actually able to give you. Like, your brain is the worst drug dealer. It's the worst one.
Yeah.
It's got all that good stuff, the dopamines, the adrenaline, it's all locked up here, right? And you have to do the things it wants to get it. You can do the bad things to get it,
Yeah.
right? Or you can do the good things to get it, right? And I think we would all, I can't say all, you can't say everyone at all, but I think a lot of us would do a lot better if we did the good things to unlock those stupid things that are up there that our brain drug dealer is keeping away from us.
I hear you, man. That's such a great message, and thank you for sharing that. If I had heard that earlier in my life, I think I definitely would have set out on this journey faster. So I hope that your words really resonate with people who are listening in and thinking about, stepping on that path for themselves and for their entire ecosystem, because I know it's not an easy journey. There's a lot of questions that come your way, a lot of different, commentary, for lack of a better word, that's going to come your way. So,
Sure.
just standing firm in it, right? And showing that you're not there for a performative reason. You're there for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're making sure that you're supporting yourself with those options when you show up to that environment. And if anyone else wants to participate or ask questions, making yourself a resource. I found that that's really gone a long way, and just sort of sharing what's worked for you, right? Like how we've done today, in terms of saying, hey, this one really tasted really great. That helped me to transition away from it, or whatever it happened to be. Just, again, leaning into that vulnerability, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Jeff, this has been an absolutely awesome conversation, man. I think, I'm so appreciative that you took this time, and I hope that more people reach out, be that online or step into the store so they can really see and feel what you guys are about, because you do tremendous work. This is true community building, and I feel you guys are in such service that it's so fantastic. So before we head out today, what I want to ask you is, what's the best way for people to connect with you in the store?
Sure.
How do they connect with the different services you guys do, like say that mixology night? And, what's the best way for them to follow along and support the journey?
Absolutely. So, sobersips.ca we talked about earlier. There is a mailing list on there. This whole business is just Shannon and I, right? So there's not a big marketing team behind me, pumping all this up. It's my wife on her day off on a Monday putting together an events calendar or a flyer. So check us out, sobersips.ca. Get on the mailing list. We send out things periodically. Of course, all the socials. We're on all the regular ones: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. As obviously the people that are watching us here on Instagram know us here. So connect with us here will be fantastic. Come to the store, 15 Dunlop Street West. We'd love to see you. Give us a call, 705-817-7661. How do you want us to connect, man, out there? Like, if you're out there and you want us to have threads, let's get threads. Like, we're easy to find. info@sobersips.ca, whatever the case may be. We've got it. So come and see us. Come check us out. Give us a call.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely make sure that all that info is available in the caption for the recording once we get that posted, so more people can make sure that they connect with you. Jeff, once again, this has been great. I think it's been a high impact conversation, especially around men's mental health awareness. I know a lot of us reach for alcohol, and hopefully this can have us, approaching last call for alcohol a little bit sooner than we might have at the start of this conversation. So,
Fingers crossed, man.
brother, thank you. Thank you so much, both you and Shannon, doing such incredible work. Wishing you guys an abundance of success, and I can't wait until I'm back in town. I'll definitely swing by and celebrate all of this success and all the future milestones that are surely headed your way soon.
Yeah, man, come find us. Thanks for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, everyone, until next time, we will see you later.
Be well.
Take care. Bye. Bye.